This is obviously a big show, SummerSlam 97. It's got gimmicks all over the place. We're definitely getting more into the Vince Russo era. You and Hunter are going to open the show in a cage.
Right.
Then Goldust and Brian Pillman are going to wrestle. And the stakes are, if Pillman loses, he has to wear a dress.
Which he did, right?
Yes.
And he wore the dress and wore it well, from what I remember.
He looked phenomenal.
Yeah. Okay.
Davey Boy is going to have to eat dog food if he loses to Ken Shamrock. Steve Austin will have to kiss Owen Hart's ass if he loses the Intercontinental title. And Bret Hart won't wrestle in America again if he loses to The Undertaker in the world title match. I understand that Eric Bischoff is a big proponent of stakes, but maybe Vince Russo has too many here.
Maybe. Well, remember, anything Vince Russo suggests has to be passed by
the ultimate filter, as they call it.
Vince.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, there was some frustration in that we felt like we finally had the better show, and it wasn't yet yielding that vantage point in the ratings.
Right.
We were still getting beaten every week, and we would for the next 30 or 35 weeks into the 83-week run of WCW on top of the ratings. So I think there was a little bit of frustration, and also the sense that SummerSlam is securely in 1997 the number 2 show. I'll argue that I think Royal Rumble is bigger than SummerSlam now, and it's become like a destination,
yes.
for parties and
yes.
the WrestleMania. What are a little bit of gambling? What's the word I'm looking for? Not an auction.
Well, they do prop bets and stuff.
And we love doing that, and I think it's one of the most fun matches. It can be, depending on the finish. I remember taking my kids to see Royal Rumble in Philadelphia because there was.
Oh, you're thinking of squares. That's what people do. They do Royal Rumble squares.
Yeah. I don't want to jump out, but just indulge me here. There was a big blizzard in Philadelphia, so I thought I'll drive. I've got more experience than my oldest son driving in the blizzard. And so I was basically dropping them off at the First Union Center, or whatever the name was at the time, in Philadelphia. And then when I came back to pick them up, I didn't have to know how it ended to know it did not end well, because I just saw people with their head down. Nobody had that vibrant feeling of joy that I talked about in the post Ric Flair's last match backstage area. It seemed like a depressing night because we didn't give the people what they wanted at that time. But the Royal Rumble, I think, usually does leave people feeling good, and it's the anticipation of it is always.
And isn't it crazy too? I think the Royal Rumble you're talking about is when Roman won it, and Rock is there to anoint him.
Yeah.
And now here we are saying, man, how magical would that be as a WrestleMania match? Just a handful of years later,
Sure.
really.
Yeah, and if that was the plan all along, kudos to Mr. McMahon.
Stay in the course.
Stay in the course. Yeah, saw something in him, and now it's like, well, I was a Roman believer, and I got a lot of flack for sticking up for Roman at a time when that's not what a lot of people want to see.
Yeah.
And then he was able to turn what was not a perfect babyface into just one of the great heel depictions of the last 10 years at least.
Thank you, Paul Heyman.
Yeah, Paul Heyman.
Big proponent of that. So let's talk about SummerSlam here and what big business it is. You've got 20,213 fans there, so probably one of the biggest crowds you've wrestled in front of at this point.
Before things really got rolling in 98 to where we were selling out almost every night, sometimes before the card was even announced, this would have been a giant crowd.
17,361 fans paid an incredible $523,154 and over $202,000 in merch.
Wow.
In 1997, that's a huge house. It's a big house now.
Yeah.
But back then,